Audioing. Rolling.
Like a Star White.
Camera
But it was funny.
focused on who's watching you.
That was recorded.
Let's try this again.
Hi everybody, and welcome to I've still forgotten the numbers, so we're just gonna say number next one of season 3 of Knights at the Round Table. I was more organized than this, I swear. I only just got back from Calgary, okay. Today we are discussing the book The Sleeping God by Violette Malan. It's the first book of the Dylan and Parno series. And I'm going to start with general impressions of the book. I'm starting with you, Matt, because we haven't seen you in a while.
It is true.
Sucker.
It's been a while. Okay, general impressions of the book. I found it to be fairly rich in its writing, but I found it did start off slow, so it took me a little bit to get into things. Both in a good and a bad, especially in the beginning, as it throws you right in the deep end and into this is the world, you're suddenly immersed, reader immersion here, which is both great, but also takes you a bit to kind of adapt and get into it. That was my first impression as soon as I started getting into it, but I do like the detail as a whole.
Okay. So,
I'm kind of going to echo that. This fell flat for me in a lot of ways. A great deal in many ways. I mean, trying to get through the first 200-something pages, I fell asleep 3 times. And I just could not, get through it as much as I wanted to. And the world is very detailed, and it does throw you into the fray, and you want to know what is going on, and so it makes for a good foundation. But I just couldn't get there for the longest time.
Okay.
And then, now it's better, and we'll see.
slightly different opinion. I don't think the world was detailed enough. But you are looking at the girl who loves Stephen Erickson's books, and they're like this, and they talk about all the archaeological finds that are uncovered by the wind as these people are marching across the desert. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. I love world building. There wasn't enough world building in this book for me. That said, I love the characters very, very much. I liked that I was dropped into the middle of their relationship. They've been partnered. The 2 mercenaries, Parno and Dylan, have been partnered for a long time. And you really get a sense of their affection and their closeness right off the bat, which is nice. I would like to know how it all happened. I want to read more about that. That's really interesting.
I agree.
For me, not enough world building. Which is a good thing, I suppose. If you're hungering for more, it's a good sign. So,
that's true.
Yeah, that would be my impression. I don't think the world was detailed enough. It became particularly an issue for me when they were talking about the birds. Are you there yet? The cloud people have these birds that they're partnered with.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they were talking about those birds, and, you were just supposed to know about the birds, and I don't know about the birds. What are they used for? Why do you have them? Are they hunting birds? Are they, your scouts? What's going on with these birds and their partners? I know they're soul bonded the way that the mercenaries are.
Yeah.
At least that's the way it came across. So, what? Why? Explain it to me. This is interesting stuff. I want to know. But it was never explained, and I'm sad.
I
want to know.
I feel like that is one of those things that you will know more about as the series goes on.
I expect so, but if you're going to introduce something, explain it more than just, there's a person and their bird that they love.
You don't need to do an info dump, which is always
Correct.
a bad thing. However, just elaborating a little bit so that the reader has a base to go on, or you have a group of 3 people that are familiar with these, and 4th person has no idea what happens here? And then there's a discourse of dialogue.
Explain in dialogue, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be an expositional dump. But I do want more information about this world, because the thing I love most about fantasy, more than any other genre, is being taken away somewhere else.
Right.
Stephen Erickson does that beautifully. David Eddings did that quite well with his Elenium series. I find... I'm going to start ranting. I find that this book is...
Well, you first and then us next.
I find that this book is extremely similar to the Elenium series in language and feel. in that it's not super detailed the way that other books are, like
Mhm.
The Mountain Book of the Fallen or Tolkien or even George R. R. Martin, who goes to great lengths to explain the food of his world, right? You don't get any of that in this book, and you don't really need it for this story because it's centered on the characters, but some fleshing out required. It wasn't that much of a problem with David Eddings because the world was simpler, I think, in David Eddings' book. And it was very readily explained in the first book exactly who was what, where, and why. Like, you knew who the Styrics were, and you knew how they came in, and you knew why there was a fight with the Zemoks, and that all of this ancient history was explained. None of that is explained in this book.
Part of the reason why I felt like this book has fallen so flat for me is I was trying to define it, because we do, most of us do know the author of this.
I actually don't, but I hear she's lovely.
Oh, okay. Well, or at least know of her, like, seen her at certain events and that kind of thing. So not like we're best friends and we talk every day, but so I want to make sure that whatever I say about it is going to be useful for the author. I felt like this was very much her first book, and then Matt told me that no, it's her second book ever published. And I kind of felt like that because there was no comedy for me. I was not laughing at all.
Oh.
I did not feel like I as a writer as well, you can see where people are stacking the layers, the subplots, the intrigue, and I could see all of that, and I'm like, this has potential to be something awesome. I felt nothing for the characters.
Really?
I
disagree.
missed the ball on everything because, and I had to figure out why. Half of your characters are Marty Mar, Pari Par, Dolly Doll, and I'm like, who the fuck are these people? Why the hell are you here? As far as I know, you're just pointless extras that are being thrown in for random subplots.
They're really not, though.
But I just, well, see, that's the thing. I fell asleep 3 times. I missed the point. There is nothing memorable in here for me except for the green eyes. And I want to know what's happening with that. And it only picked up for me around page 300-ish, where I'm sitting there going, hey, now we're doing tactics. We're going to storm in. We're going to kill this person. So you guys are going to go do this. You guys are going to do this. And when the mercenaries are actually doing something mercenary-like, then I was interested and I started actually reading quickly. The rest of it... and that's why I think the rest of this series is going to be awesome. The beginning of it, not loving it.
See, I disagree about the characters. I immediately attached to Dylan. And I think it might be because
Dylan is the closest I would be attached to.
Well, and here's the thing. Alright, I'm not one for blonde men, but I'll take Parno, please. Like, he was a really awesome human being.
You seem to be the grounded one of the group, right?
Right.
Like, you
yeah.
felt
And-
thing is through Dylan. Is that how you pronounce
Yes,
the
it is.
writing?
It specifies that at the
by the
beginning.
way, it's pronounced Dylan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
The
So
I-
that's, you felt your way through the story with Dylan, but you were grounded with Parnell.
Yeah.
And so that's why they made the great
They made
pair.
a really great pairing, but I think I attached myself to Dylan so much because I kind of also feel homeless and unattached. Like, spoiler alert, Dylan is pretty much the last of her people.
Yes. They do mention that.
Yes, they do. And very Celtic inspired, I think, by the way. That made me smile because I'm a nerd. But because she felt so unattached and, like, basically, she doesn't have any real memories of her people. She remembers riding behind her father and how things smelled like spice when she was riding. She remembered that her mother had grey eyes, but all she could see were the eyes because there was, like, head wrapping and stuff. But she didn't really remember much of her home. And it's kind of sort of the same way with me, in that I arrived in Australia when I was 6 years old. We had travelled all the way around the world before then, so... and then Australia failed to prove to be that much of an anchor for me, and I left, and I don't remember much about Australia, even though I left when I was 17. So I think Dylan, for me, made a really compelling character, because she was partnered with somebody, but she was also on the lookout for something else to root herself to. Like, Mar, when they first arrive at the city, whose name I forget, begins with a G.
Is that the gunny gun guy?
No, it's City, the City.
Oh,
Godarang?
Something, yes,
yes,
there we go.
Godarang.
Notices that she's always looking around, and she's like, why? This isn't just simply alertness. She's looking around, and she realizes, she's looking for other Red Riders. She's looking for somebody else like herself.
I did
And I
like
spent
that.
most of my life like that.
Yeah, they walk into the city, and she is looking around for more people of her kind, but she's also noticing a bunch of other things, and that's what I liked. She had already looked at the maps prior to that, if I remember correctly, about how confusing that place is supposed to be, and how you need to mentally take stock of where the hallways are, where they're going to lead you to. And I was hoping that they would do a lot more with that. I mean, they do some of it, but not enough for me.
Where are you up to?
They are just... Somebody in particular is dead now.
Oh, that's specific. Quite a few people actually die in this book, so which one? Is it the brother? The mercenary brother? Spoiler alert. Nope. Okay, never mind. They do more with it.
Okay.
In that case.
Good. I'm hoping so. Maybe I know what you're talking about and not realize it, because again, so much of this is non-memorable that I just there are usually key scenes that I'm like, yes, this is amazing, and really it's the description of the green eyes, and I really want to know what's happening with that. And I felt like we jumped way too much with characters that I don't know who is trying to do what in the grand scheme of things. And I mean, story-wise, that will work out eventually, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But it's just the characters being the mercenaries being perceptive. I expect them to be that way. I like that they have the bond, and that's why I said they're the closest to being interesting for me than everybody else in the book.
Will change.
I hope so. Because again, it has it's starting to pick up for me, and I'm like, okay, there's this happening and this going on, and it's starting to kind of make sense. And I did end up reading a few Goodreads reviews that weren't spoiler type of reviews, but reading sort of general impressions, and I found that a lot of reviewers felt the same way that I did, where it does pick up after the first 200 and some odd pages, but that first bit I'm like, I could have done without most of it. And again, if it's putting me to sleep, I like books that I'm going to be enthralled in, and this isn't there yet, which is another reason why I had assumed it was her first novel. Maybe in terms of the outlining, we didn't quite get to what I would want out of a fantasy book, but that doesn't make it a good book. She's got all of the foundations for things once you get past that low point.
Okay.
And
so,
I think the rest of the series will be awesome.
As a counterpoint to that, this is the first in the Dylan Parner
Yes,
books,
it is.
so she has to spend a fair amount of time establishing the characters.
Absolutely.
In her defense. And I think they're fabulous characters. I really like Dylan and Parner.
There's something on that part. So she's a Canadian author. Just about the author herself here, she has a PhD.
She's an Ontarian.
Yeah.
Yes. PhD in 18th century literature, if I can speak today.
Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth.
There we go. What she said. I find it interesting with the way she approaches things. I do like her approach, and she said on her website, I start with the characters and work out from there, unquote. So she works out through their dialogue, figuring out the people, and then after that, then she says, okay, what problem can they face? What problem is appropriate for these characters? Mm-hmm. And then builds the world around the characters. And I do like there's a certain appeal to this style of writing, as opposed to using this character, I can fit here, I'll just reshape him a little bit. And you can tell it doesn't quite fit. In working outward from this, the characters are a natural fit for the world, and I do like that development of these two.
Yeah, I agree very much. Particularly since they end up on this particular continent because Parno's like, I really miss my home. Can we go visit? And Dylan's like, no, let's not. And Parno's like, yes, let's. And then they have a little spat about it. This is implied in the text. You don't see it. And then off they go. And then once they arrive, all kinds of shenanigans happen. I enjoyed the slow build up to a conclusion that if you weren't paying attention would probably make you go, oh, right, of course. But if you are paying attention, you can spot it 10,000 leagues away. That doesn't make it any less enjoyable. I really like having... Cover your ears, you guys. It's hard to discuss when you haven't finished the book. Well, I really like having the clues or everything that you need already existing in the folklore of a place. You just need to realize that it's there. I loved that about this book because it was right there. And it's true, there are a lot of histories hidden in like games and songs and stuff that children used to play. So I liked that she included that. Well done. That was a nice touch. If you're paying attention though, you can tell it's coming.
One of the things that I'm kind of on the fence on is the use of her being a seer. And how that's included in the prose of it. At the beginning I thought it was annoying and it deterred you from what was going on, and it just didn't seem to make sense. But then as you go through, it starts to, like, it makes, so when she's captured earlier on in the book, and they're trying to find out what she knows, what she remembers, they're trying to force her to remember these things. And so then as the guy, I'm assuming, pours the liquid or whatever it is down her throat, that's kind of the impression I got from the scene.
She was drugged.
Okay. It then reverts to her seeing. And so at that point I liked it because then I understood what that was supposed to do and what was happening, and maybe not why it would get to that point. And so then you're looking for, well, has she actually seen these things? And she is talked about through the novel. I can see, but only sporadically, and it doesn't quite make sense because I wasn't taught it.
So you don't like the way it is introduced necessarily for the character?
Yeah, at first I was like, okay, so my impression was a little bit based on, like, mystery novels. A common device that people will use in mystery is you'll be following the private detective or whomever, the cop, whatever, and then the next chapter it'll be you have a scene where it's the perspective of the killer. And you know that is the killer. You know, and this, when it switches to the seer, you're like, wait, what? It's almost like a whiplash, but then it starts to work out later on. And then I was fine with it, but at first I was like, there is too much stuff, I don't even know where, who, what, why.
Agreed. The first time it happened, I went, what is going on? But then, you know, I was fine after the first time it happened. So, yeah, I agree. It was a bit jarring when it first happened. Yeah.
And so that's why I said it's not, like, the book is not bad, it was just some of it was introduced just bugged me. It just, again...
It's too sharp, do you reckon? Is that...
Perhaps. Perhaps that may have been it. I mean, I do like a surprise, and I do like to be taken along for the ride, but I felt like it was too much of a jolt because I was still trying to figure out who are these people? Why are we doing this? Where the hell? Why is this such a big deal?
Not a surprise so much as a jarring effect.
Yeah.
And a succession of those.
And between all of the things combined, I'm just like, I am having a hard time staying awake, dealing with some of the stuff.
So I understand what you're saying. Certain things, I think, when you're talking about staples and a lot of what this is that you've commented about are staples within fantasy. For example, you're saying about crime and the mysteries in that. You understand all this perspective is from the killer. You read romance novel. Will they or won't they? Whether it's one male and one female or one female and two males. Will they or won't they? Of course they will. That's the point of the romance, right? You know, will the detective find out who did it? You're reading the book, aren't you? You know,
No, he won't. Cold file. All right, let's go.
Science fiction fantasy, part of this is like magic and world building and dragons half the time, or swordplay.
Which would be fine.
This is just kind of part of the genre.
There is
and
very little fighting thus far. Very little. There is no humor.
No, I disagree. There were a couple of things
Oh,
that
it's
made me
not
laugh
Terry
out
Pratchett.
loud.
Thank you.
What?
But you know, like there are certain things that are just
I don't-
kind of, you know.
Well, I don't mind the world building. That's what I mean. Like it's rich enough that I can see there are going to be epic things happening because people are trying to kill other people to get into better positions of power and that kind of thing. And so it has lots that I can see happening that I want to have happen, but there's just too much at the beginning that just doesn't grab me enough. And that's what the problem is. It's not that it's not staple for high fantasy or anything, it's just there has to be something for me to like grip into, and because I'm not fully sold on some of the characters, I'm not sold on what the hell is happening, I'm not really sold on the seeing power that she has. Like, it just needs a bit more for me, and that's it.
Okay, that's
Fair
fair.
enough. Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed about this book, right from the off, was the relationship between Dylan and Parna.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me like they're in sort of like an open, incredibly deeply loving, very strongly bonded, open relationship.
Yeah,
It felt
that's
like-
a good, yeah.
I would like to see more about the history of this relationship.
Yeah,
And
I really want to.
I
want
do
to know a lot
I do
about these
expect
two.
this to come forth in the preceding books.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't read them, so I don't know. Maybe there is.
I mean, as far as you're aware in this book, Parno sees Dylan fighting in some battle and it was like, that's the one. That's it. We're bonded. And that's essentially what it seems happens from this book, which is actually very kind of I like that idea a lot, where he just looks at her and is like, yeah, that's her, that's the one, that's my partner. The
There
end.
you go.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like that because they mention that other people wouldn't understand their relationship so much, and I think it is because it reads to me at least like an open relationship. Like these two do sleep together, but they also go out whoring every so often. Like
Yeah. It's very understandable, because at first it's very confusing because they're referring to each other as brothers because they're part of the brotherhood, I loved that.
Well, I had a slight problem with that.
Okay, go.
In that it was gendered. Did it have to be gendered? Because clearly there are other female mercenaries. Like, would it have started off as all men and therefore it was a brotherhood? Or could they not just be, instead of brothers, siblings? Like, this is my shield sister, this is my shield brother kind of idea? Or do they have to be both brothers? It's a very small nitpicky thing, and it's only something that I picked up on like
But
halfway
I
through.
feel like that's almost you're projecting today's world views onto history.
It's not history. This is a fantasy book.
Sure, but I feel like it's set in an older time period in which that would have been the norm.
Yeah, well, see, but that's my issue, right? In this older time period, women wouldn't have been allowed to fight openly as women if it's going to be their brothers, right? They would have to be at least cross-dressing. But if they're fighting openly, does it have to be a brotherhood? Can it not be a family? Like, that's
But
it's
also-
a small
your
gripe.
nitpick is on the wordplay.
Yes.
Yeah, my nitpick is
That
on the
is.
choice of words, on how gendered it is, because it feels like then that that it's a masculine thing to do to go out and fight for coin, which it clearly isn't, because there are many female mercenaries. So it's just a small, tiny little thing. I'm gonna get blasted in the comments.
No.
Fucking SJW, this is what's wrong with feminism. But honestly,
Oh God, no. Please don't. Don't do it.
I can see it happening. But it did bother me just slightly because of the implication that fighting for your family, your brothers, is a masculine thing to do, and it's fucking not. Okay? So that's
I can
small,
counter and say it's her
small
world.
nitpick. Yeah, exactly, it's her world. But it was just like a tiny nitpick that I had. Brothers? Really? Not siblings? Not... Yeah, really?
Well, because siblings then makes it awkward when they do sleep together, and then you're
As
like,
opposed to...
well,
brothers are siblings! Like, why is that language so different? Why is it so awkward?
just
All of a
the
sudden.
connotation. I don't know. People have very strange ideas as to how language works and how it gets warped over the years. So
The mercenary
one seems,
siblinghood. Just doesn't sound as cool.
Mercenary family.
That just sounds like they're gonna burst into song.
No, for God's
That
sake.
sounds like another Game of Thrones episode. I mean,
Oh, God.
Oh.
Don't do it.
And they screw all the time.
We've lost control of the ship.
Alright, final thoughts, problems, issues, star rating, Sue.
As I've echoed a bunch of different times throughout, I do enjoy it enough that I will probably continue with the series, because I want to know what Violette Malan does with the series, what she does with the Brotherhood, what she does with the political intrigue that she's set up in this world that you're still learning a lot about. And so based on that, I'm going to give it a 3 because I have expectations for where it's going to go, and I do want it to get better, and I'm sure it will. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say it's terrible and throw it out the window. Other than that, we'll just see what happens. I have good expectations for it, so a 3.
Matt?
It's definitely better than your Battlefield Earth review.
I didn't do Battlefield Earth.
Anything is better
Sorry,
than Battlefield
It was
Earth.
Bill and her that did
Yes.
Battlefield Earth.
Your review, sorry, my apologies.
It's okay. I think I still have PTSD from that book. Alright, go ahead.
I'm gonna lose my tea, damn it.
Swallow.
Thank you.
That's one. Nothing? Keep going?
And this is where we beat up Sonia on camera. No, I'm joking.
Oh, you can try.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she'll pick up the table and beat us with it, okay? One hand. Boom!
I'm not built like a
Bam.
bull for nothing. Alright, keep going.
Okay. So, my thoughts on it are this. I really do like her style of using a character-driven story. And the development of that story around the characters, I like that approach. It's an approach that I think more writers need to do, so the characters have more of a natural fit. Having said that, I really want to see more about the history of these characters.
Mhm.
I can see where they currently are. That's awesome. That's that's kind of like jumping into a 0 to 100 YouTube clip of a car taking off when the car is already at 50 miles an hour. And you're like, there's a little bit missing there. And I want to see a bit more of the history. I do expect that to come with future books, but, it's part of the first book where you do this too. That's my thought on that. I do like the development so far. And how it's progressing. I like the you're saying about all the little bits that are in the book and that. I do like that aspect. It does have a certain richness. It's not exactly Erikson or Tolkien, but it's got a lot there. I think as far as myself, for my rating for this, I'm going to go with a 3 as well. It's not quite to the level I want, but it's definitely something that I'll continue reading, look into the future books.
Okay, for me, I gave it a 3.5. I quite like this book a lot. It brings to mind, it brings to mind Eddings' not quite the exact same style. Eddings had a lot more humour and winks at the audience than this book does. But it has the same sort of feel for me, really. I loved the characters. I loved Dylan and Parno. I loved something that I didn't get to talk about was that Violette Malan deals with, is that women menstruate, and sometimes it's fucking painful. And I really love how Parnell was not like, ew, blood! He was like, I'm going to look after you until this passes. Can I have some warm stones and a blanket, please, innkeeper? Like, that was really sweet to me. Like, I love Parnell so much. So, yeah, the only thing I wish was more in-depth in the world. But again, take this with a grain of salt, because I do read fantasy books that are over 1,000 pages quite frequently, because I love them, because they're so deep and I just fucking fall into them, and it's amazing. I want more of that for this book. I do expect that there will be more world building as the series progresses, and I'm really excited, actually, to read more, because I loved these characters so much. Alright. You get to pick the next one.
Yay! Okay. One Piece. There we go.
Oh.
Valor's Choice by Tanya Huff. Oh, this one was suggested by a viewer of ours. Hi, Tim Selma. Thank you very much. If you have any thoughts... wait. Let me do that properly. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be discussing Valor's Choice by Tanya Huff, as suggested by a viewer, Tim Selma. If you have any thoughts about this book, The Sleeping God by Violette Malan, leave them down below. They'll also be up in our Goodreads book discussion. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much, guys. Bye!
The look she gave you just gave you a shave.
Yeah.